What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Frownfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
This is episode 67 of the What's a Hero podcast with me, Ken Frownfelter. I'm going to go into a little bit of history today, and I think it's going to be, it's important. Today that we're recording this podcast, it's actually July 14th, and, 15th, but yesterday, July 14th, I'm going to go into a little bit of history. On July 14th, 1881, the famous gunslinger Billy the Kid was shot and killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett. Born as either William H. Bonney or Henry McCarty, historians do not know for certain. Billy the Kid committed his first crimes at only 15 years old, stealing food and robbing a Chinese laundry. He lived a rough and tumble life in the American Southwest, serving as a ranch hand for several different ranchers. Billy the Kid truly rose to prominence in the Lincoln County War, which was the result of a rivalry between rancher John Tunstall and a faction of businessmen headed by Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan. They all competed for beef contracts and power in the town of Lincoln, New Mexico. Billy worked in Tunstall, and following Tunstall's murder, which ignited all-out conflict between supporters of each faction, he went with others on the warpath to avenge him. In several high-profile gun battles, one of which took place in the streets of Lincoln, Billy made a name for himself and was known to have killed several men. Following this, he became an outlaw on the run and wanted for the previously mentioned murders along with several others. Billy was eventually captured following a siege near Stinking Springs, New Mexico. Put on trial and convicted, Billy the Kid was sentenced to hang. On April 28th, 1881, however, while being held in the Lincoln County Courthouse, Billy overpowered his guards, killed them both, and escaped. After escaping from prison, Billy the Kid took flight and hid with some friends at a place called Maxwell's Ranch. After 3 months of searching, Sheriff Pat Garrett of Lincoln finally discovered the kid's location. As Garrett sat questioning the owner of the ranch, Pete Maxwell, in a darkened bedroom, the kid unexpectedly entered the room. Billy quickly drew his pistol and asked, "Who is it? Who is it?" in Spanish. Upon recognizing the kid's voice, Pat Garrett drew his own pistol and fired twice, striking Billy the Kid in the chest. Billy immediately fell to the floor, gasping for air and dying within a few minutes. He was thought to be just 21 years old. And you look at this whole thing, you see this guy he was a bad dude. He was a murderer. He was a wanted felon. He was a horrible guy. And if it had not been for Pat Garrett being aware of everything that he'd been doing and being aware of Billy the Kid's voice and being aware of everything and actually having the ability to be kind of quick with what it is he's doing, he wouldn't have got Billy the Kid. So I kind of want to just show a little bit of honor and thanks to actually Pat Garrett and not Billy the Kid. But Pat Garrett is our history hero of the day on the What's a Hero podcast. I think that's something that I'm going to start doing, is having a little bit of, see if we can get a hero of the day or hero of the podcast. And I think it would be cool to do that. So today's is Pat Garrett. But actually we have another hero on the show. He's actually been on the show before. You guys may remember this gentleman from episode 26, When That Day Comes, with Chris Hoyer. He actually wrote the book, When That Day Comes, Training for the Fight. And Chris chose to join us today, wants to go back over some things on the book, kind of do some updates on, more modernize the stories and stuff like that. Story doesn't change. It is what it is. However, his presentation of the story is going to be a little bit different. And so I just want to thank him for coming back on. Welcome back, Chris. How you doing?
Good, Ken. Thanks for the invite, man. I missed you. I had to come back for another round. So.
That's right. That's right. So what have you been up to during these, I guess, man, it's been over a year and a half or something like that since you last.
Well, I don't want to start off bad, but the COVID kind of put a ringer on everything. Of course, my girlfriend and I caught it, and we were fine. And we were sick for a couple of days or whatever, and came out of it okay. And so now we're just doing our thing pretty much. She's working full time for a private company, and she's also doing a lot of public speaking. And she finished her book finally, which is awesome. She's doing a lot of ghostwriting for other folks, and I am reigniting my LLC, doing some tactical training and some basic training and a lot of public speaking stuff. Been all over the country this year again, which is completely awesome. I mean, I keep getting invited back to places, which I think is just amazing. So it's like, wow, people actually want to hear what I have to say. So
yeah, last time we spoke, you were working with the Marine Corps.
Correct.
And we actually got to hang out a little bit. We were at a conference that we actually happened to see each other at, last year. That was kind of cool. Get to see you. And you had this giant flag that you were having people. It was a blue line flag, right?
Yep.
And you were having just heroes cops come and sign that thing. And you still have that flag?
It's funny you asked that, because that one ended up after Vegas, which, by the way, the Wounded Blue, I got to throw a plug in for those guys. Probably one of the best conferences I've ever been to.
Yeah, those guys are good.
They're having it in Indiana this year. I'm not actually even affiliated with them, but I had such a good time there.
Yeah.
But so that one ended up in Virginia and in Spokane, a couple of times in Arizona, and of course in California, where we now live.
Mm-hmm.
But it got so filled up that I ended up buying a brand spanking new one. And 2 days ago, up in Orange County, California, did the CGIA, the gang conference, which is actually nationwide. They actually brought some guys in from Australia, which is totally cool.
Wow.
Had a brand new flag, and that thing's almost filled up already with all the brand new signatures. So now I've got two going at the same time, which is pretty cool. So
that's pretty cool. Where are you putting those? You hang them up?
Well, normally I've got one that's my background for my podcast and Zoom call, stuff like that. But the new one, I'm not sure. Natalie made a joke yesterday about, that thing's not going in our house. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? So,
you're gonna have your garage just filled with flags.
Probably, yeah.
Heroes. Yeah,
more than likely. So,
so that's cool. That's cool. So you've been doing that. You've been going across, country, going across the country, doing presentations and stuff on the book, or?
Yeah, it is based on the book, mostly my story, but it's kind of turned into a whole before, during, and after training for the fight, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual preparation for. It doesn't have to be a gunfight, and that's the one main thing I point out to folks. That just happens to be my story, because that was what happened to me. But it could be anything. It could be. I was watching the news, getting ready to go to that conference yesterday, and some 16-year-old got hit by a car on a skateboard. It could be that. I mean, it could be anything that's going to set you off, or make it a critical incident. It's going to cause some stress for you. So
right. So what have you been? So let's go back really quick, and just so people that maybe if you haven't listened to episode 26, go back and listen to it. But let's give a little synopsis of who it is Chris is, and you grew up. You just a regular kid, just causing all sorts of trouble and stuff like that, right?
Well, luckily my mom's probably not listening, but that is true. Yeah, I did. Grew up on the East Coast back in the early 70s, and to the point where I was getting in enough trouble. My mom's like, "All right, you're going to live with your stepdad." That's a whole nother story in itself, and he ended up kicking me out of the house at 18, and now I found myself a high school dropout, homeless, living in my car. Was able to rally, got my act together, got a decent job, and fast forward, ended up finding my now ex-wife, which, by the way, watch out for the lightning bolts coming through the ceiling here. But got married, had a couple of kids, obviously ultimately got divorced. Did all my PD time with the Phoenix Police Department, my full 20 years with those guys, honorably retired, called it quits, and I moved out to California.
Yeah. Normally everybody leaves California and goes to somewhere else, but you decided to go
You know,
from Phoenix to California.
All my friends are giving me grief about all the prices going up in Arizona. I'm like, dude, I had nothing to do with it, man. Sorry. You know.
The thing that you talked about this the last time, and the thing that one of the things that sticks out in my mind about your story was that you owned a business as like a construction type guy, or was it laying sheetrock or laying floors or
carpet, mostly carpet stuff.
Carpet. And they were giving you grief like, hey, where's your boss? And you're like, I am the boss, right? And you would get in there and you'd have to prove yourself that I know what I'm doing. But then you started realizing this is not what I want to do for my life long. I mean, my knees are killing me at 21 or whatever and stuff like that, right?
Correct. Yeah. I realized that it was really my back that was giving me the most trouble. Mm-hmm. And I pictured myself being 40 years old. Do I really want to be doing this at 40? I can barely handle it now at 24, 25.
Right.
15 years down the road, and then not having insurance and having to deal with guys working for me was not really what I want to be doing. Not in that capacity at that time anyway. So
yeah. So you get into Phoenix and you lay it out really well in your book, but you have some solid stories of when you were in Phoenix and just some crazy, and most people go through their whole career, they don't get into shooting. You got into multiple shootings, and then one was a gunfight, but the other ones are the kind of they're kind of a big deal. But until that gunfight, that was the biggest deal. But you gotten in several gunfights in your career, or not gunfights, but shootings in your career. What were those days like leading up to that and then following that? Was it just like, hey, everything and all of a sudden it just happens, or was there things like was there any kind of telltale that was happening beforehand?
It's kind of funny you say that, because I realized early on that I like to play the what if game. Still do it to this day. I always do that. If I'm in my car and the guy approaches me with a gun, or I come around a corner facing a guy with a knife, what are my options? What are my escape routes? So forth and so on. And so it was the strangest thing, because in '99, solo, finally get out there on the street. I had 3 back-to-back incidents where I almost shot dogs, right? It was one of those things where I almost shot a dog, so forth. And then my first real shooting ended up being a dog, which, by the way, for me is worse than any. I'll shoot people all day because they know, but a dog doesn't know any better, right? So still devastated over that whole thing, which is a whole long story.
Yeah.
But then fast forward another year later, it's the same exact scenario where 3 separate times I'm slacking out on the trigger, going, man, this is gonna be the one, and it wasn't. And then fast forward till July of 2000. Guy ended up pulling a gun, and I was forced into shooting him. And It was one of those things where you made the decision, man. I'm sorry for having to shoot you, but shit, what am I gonna do?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so it's just crazy. So I want to read something from the book, When That Day Comes, and it's actually, I'm going to read the entire chapter because it's not very long, but it's pretty good. And so it's kind of so here we go. While in the academy, I was personally making decisions based on survival. However, as a class, things were a lot less stressful. Overall, I thought we had good times. Most of the time, it was not too tough, and our leader was pretty cool. Many of our training officers were on light duty, which meant there was not a lot of running, which was fine by us recruits. I mean, it's not like they don't give us patrol cars on the streets, right? There were not too many surprises, at least as far as the curriculum was concerned. Report writing, learning to drive fast, shoot a gun, radio etiquette, first aid, state statutes, criminal law, courtroom testimony, and so on. It wasn't until later on that I realized that we were lacking in education, which was how I actually chased bad guys. The reason most of us were here, and most of us were there. But the lessons were thorough enough and we were all eager to learn. As for the chasing bad guys portion, keep reading. I pictured myself a baby lion. Thanks to the training officers, I knew how to clean and prep the prey, but I hadn't yet learned how to catch it. That's what I really wanted to learn. But first came some hard lessons. One of those hard lessons is never shoot reloads. Since the statute of stupidity has run out, it's probably okay to reveal my biggest mistake as a recruit. By week 12 or 13, I took it upon myself to practice shooting on my own. Some of the recruits were having trouble qualifying with the handgun. Me, I didn't have trouble qualifying, so much as finding out the hard way that some guns do not shoot reloaded ammunition. Oops. After a small purchase/repair from a local gun shop and 5 separate policy violations later, my training weapon was fixed. A friendship was lost. A few threats were made, and I had the most discipline ever handed out in the academy at that point. Imagine, if you will, a pin dropping silence on the parade deck. I was just a kid with buckling knees and a growing fear of having to go back to laying carpet. "Give me your gun belt," the training sergeant shouted. We, the senior class, were standing at attention up front. There were 3 classes standing behind me. The entire staff of academy headsheads stood before me, looks of disgust on their faces, feigned looks, I presume. Not that I dared to look at them, though. This was the closest I ever came to passing out. I was told to sit in the lunchroom and keep my mouth shut. Of course, all the other recruits were buzzing about, asking what I had done. The general consensus was, "Oh my God." And I didn't think I could feel any worse. After a couple hours of deliberation and strategic punishment planning, and surely a whole lot of belly laughing behind closed doors after the decision had been made, I found myself sitting in the sergeant's office. It was 30 minutes of the worst ass chewing in history. I did not realize just how low I could actually sink into a chair before that day. The sweetest words I ever heard, at least in this profession setting, were, "We decided we are not going to fire you." An entire Mardi Gras went off in my head. The relief must have shown on my face because the words that followed weren't as comforting. "Don't get too happy just yet. I suggest you buy a new pair of running shoes and a box of pens." 2 5,000-word essays later, on topics that included cracking an egg and tying your shoes, I had written my way out of that mess. They couldn't give me something complicated to write about, like nuclear fusion and its benefit to world peace. Next came the physical punishment, 150 push-ups and as many sit-ups and 10 trail runs, on top of which came obligatory but very real threat. "Boy, do not even consider screwing up again." Yes, sir. In my head, I was thinking, "Sir, can you pass me that oxygen bottle? Oh, and can I shine your shoes for a while, especially while I'm here? Paint your office? Donate a kidney?" Let me just say, with the profound experience under my belt, I was well aware of how one really stupid mistake could put me at risk for losing everything I had worked so hard for. Of course, there were a total of 5 mistakes, but who was counting? Oh yeah, the staff was counting. Damn it. Lesson learned. I think I really helped my appreciation a little bit more, especially the importance of holding and upholding this responsibility as a professional representative of my community and, of course, my department. What in the world did you do?
Oh my God. So we had some dudes in our class that were struggling to shoot, right? And our class sergeant comes in the room and he goes, "Hey, I understand you guys are, you're doing okay as a class, but if you need to find a place to practice on your own, I'm going to tell you right now, if you do something stupid, you're not covered." He goes, "But if you find a place to practice, quietly on your own, that's okay. Go ahead." Of course, me being the dumbass that I was, all I heard was, "Hey, go shoot your guns."
Right.
Okay. So I go, really still a very close friend of mine, owned a gun shop at the time. I go to his gun store, buy the ammo, head out to the desert, and first round fired fine. Second round fired out of battery, which ultimately blew the magazine out of the gun and blew the extractor off the side of the gun. And it really wasn't that major of a thing. as it turns out, weapon wise.
Right.
So just by chance, there was a gun show in town that particular weekend. So I took the gun down to the gun show, had these guys fix the gun for me. So when I said a friendship was lost, one of our academy squad mates, I called her because she was like the mom of our group, so to speak.
Right.
And I said, "Oh my God, what do I do?" She's like, first of all, why did you tell me about this? I'm like, because you're like, you know everything. Her dad was a cop, so she was kind of like the end kind of person. So now she knows about it, which I never thought about. Now she knows about it. Now she's got an obligation to, if I don't speak up, she has to, right? And I was like,
Right.
oh God, that was so stupid for me to put her in that position. Um, so she's like, you better call the RTO and let him know what's going on. So sure enough, I called my RTO, my recruit training officer, and he's like, Christopher, why? And I'm like, I know it was whatever. And I'm already panicking, of course, this happened on a Saturday. By Sunday was when I made the call.
Mm-hmm.
I was up pretty much all night long writing. He goes, you better write a freaking long ass memo explaining why you did what you did. So dude, it was like 5 pages of, I made a huge mistake. Please don't fire me. This is what I did. Please don't fire me. When every other sentence, please don't fire me. So I turned it in, and sure enough, you read the story there. So I'm up on the parade deck with everybody else. We're senior class. I think I'm in row 3, if I'm not mistaken, and we do open ranks, which we were well past that. We didn't do that shit anymore. We were the senior class. It was pretty much just a quick, all right, here you go, you're blessed, move on kind of a thing.
Right.
So the confusion set in right away. Why are we doing open ranks? What is all that?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, of course, they do open ranks, so they've got room to move around in between the recruits and stuff. So the whole staff comes over, walks right up to me. And my class sergeant's like, give me your gun belt. And my knees are buckling. I'm like, oh, I mean, I'm on the verge of passing out. Literally, I'm not kidding. Handed my gun belt, and I swear, man, it was like death silence. Couldn't hear a thing. And handed the belt, and he's like, keep your mouth shut, and stand by until we tell you what word can I have you do. Okay. Go down the thing and wait. And I'm like, oh my God, it seemed like forever, of course. And of course, all my recruit buddies like, dude, what's going on? I'm like, I can't say it. I'm trying not to cry. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just packing all my shit and going home for the day, right?
Mm-hmm. Or longer.
Or long, yeah, yeah. Or having to face that whole horror of oh, by the way, I no longer have a job.
Right, I gotta go back and do carpet.
Oh God, yeah, that was even worse. But so for guys that have been through it, they'll know what I'm talking about. So you get up to the recruit training officer's door and you pound on the door, and they acknowledge, hey, it's recruit Hoyer, and you stand there, and you got to stand at you're outside. And it's freaking hotter than shit. You're
obviously
outside.
Phoenix, yeah.
Right. So for probably about 45 minutes, they made me to stand outside the door, and they know that I'm there. It's no question because they've acknowledged that I'm out there. And when they tell you, when you knock on this door, make sure we know you're out there. So you pound on the door really hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
it sounds like Marine Corps boot camp. Same thing. You go to there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so stupid. Whatever the command was, speak or say or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's Hoyer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then they yell, after so much time, they yell, enter or whatever. So you go inside the door. You got to close the door like a certain way, all quietly. And then you stand there at attention again. And they're all standing around, they're shooting shit, and they're walking by and everything else. And there's no way they don't know that I'm there, of course, because they let me in.
Right.
So another 45 minutes goes by, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, I'm trying
shaking. Yeah.
Oh my God. So finally, one of the guys, he goes, okay, go into the sergeant's office and, do whatever. So I go in there, and I'm like, am I supposed to sit down? Am I supposed to stand up? And so I stand against the wall, and he comes in, and he's like, sit down. Okay. And he wasn't like a super tall guy. I'm about 6'1", and I towered over him pretty good, but he's your size. He's a big old fucking muscle guy, right? And I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna just throw me through the wall and kill me, right? So another 30 minutes of, you did this and you did this and you did this and I'm like, yeah, I know what I did. Just give me the words, finally gives me the okay. All right, look, here's the deal. And man, I was like, holy shit, right? And so that whole thing went away, and I was able to make it back into full swing. No problems. Never made any more mistakes after that. I can promise you that. I was good to go. But here's the interesting part about that whole story. Short of realizing how stupid it was, and again, how quickly a mistake can cost you so much, right? Mm-hmm. When I got done, I retired 2018. I reached out to my former class sergeant in 2020, just because I was like, hey, the book was finally done. Hey, I want you to see this kind of thing. I obviously mailed him a copy, and he gets me on the phone. And fast forward, this is well over 20 years later, right? And he goes, hey, there's something you probably never knew. I go, okay. He goes, because he actually worked for Glendale, Arizona PD. Of course, I was Phoenix. Mm-hmm. He goes, your entire academy staff and all your chiefs wanted to fire you. And I told him no. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I was the only one that went to bat for you out of all those people. And I was like, really? And dude, I was like in tears on the phone. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, yeah, they'd already made the decision. They'd already had your termination papers all done up and be gone. And his pretty much a quote, he goes, this kid's something special. We need to keep him. He's going to be a good cop. We're not going to get rid of him. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. So yeah, talking about going to bat for me, I was in shock.
Yeah. I'd
never heard that before.
Yeah. When one person decides to do that and sees your worth, and everybody else is wanting to just throw the trash out. And
yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what it would have been, and I would have probably never had a chance to go back. Right. And because now looking back on it, I mean, I was very exceptionally thankful for the regained opportunity, if you will. So right. I maintained that professionalism throughout the rest of my career, or at least I tried to anyway. I mean, let's face it, we're going to make mistakes, of course, but now knowing that they took a huge chance on me, and I mean, I made it worth their effort, made it worth their while, as it turned out. So,
and that's cool. Yeah, I mean, at least you hope you did. I mean, I think you did. I think you got a solid book here, and you got a solid career that you're able to share that with everybody, and I think that's cool. But for them to, and you can't blame them. And now, was it just because you broke the? I mean, as far as a firearm is concerned, it's you firearms well now.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, it was kind of an easy fix, easy to take care of.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was.
But what was the big gripe that you used reloads?
Well, no, it was because I went out of policy because we're not supposed to be shooting on our own without supervision as recruits.
Oh, right? I see. Okay.
So that was one policy violation. Technically speaking, I was in the desert where we weren't. I mean, it really wasn't a sanctioned area to be shooting, so I wasn't on an official range. There's another policy violation. Mm-hmm. I didn't report it immediately, which was another violation.
Oh, you waited a day.
And then I didn't have the gun inspected by my agency, which was another violation. Right, I went outside the chain of command and had the gun.
Oh, you went to the gun show. That's right.
Exactly right. So all these things, and there was one other one. I can't remember what it was now, but so I had like policy violation after violation, and it was like right on down the line. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
what am I doing?
It was more like panic. I wasn't. Obviously, I came clean with the whole, because clearly you're going to have to come clean at some point. They're going to know.
Right. Right.
God forbid, like in my case, sure as shit, you get into a shooting, they're going to inspect the gun, of course.
Right.
They would have never known. I could have kept the whole thing quiet and it would have just gone away. Nobody would have ever been the wiser of it. But integrity, damn it, has to kick in at some point, right? And
so exactly.
I did the right thing. And luckily, miraculously, just from the hand of God, it didn't end up going bad for me. So
right.
Dumb it.
Right.
Don't do that again. So
okay. That's all I got. And I guess looking back at it, the fact that you had two 5,000 word essays and some just a lot of running.
A whole lot of running. Yeah. And the great part about it was, of course, I know for a fact, and I didn't ask him, but I know for a fact that they never even read those essays.
Oh,
I know they threw them in the trash.
Yeah, they did.
And it was one of those things where, in the academy, every single mistake that you make is red pen, and so I already had enough trouble just handwriting stuff out as it was.
Hmm.
And so everything had to be perfect, of course, you know, and I know, and I meticulously went through this thing, and they only gave me a certain amount of time to do it, of course, too. So I had to do it as quickly as I could.
So it's just all chicken scratch. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you know, and I tried to make it as good as I could and whatever. But the good part was the integrity part. They're like, all right, we're gonna let you do all these other exercises on your own. We're not gonna supervise that. So make sure you do all this stuff because your integrity's kind of at stake here. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that was kind of the big thing. That was why you were where you were in the first place. But it's not as though you were trying to hide it. You just, I mean, I don't know. You should have. I guess you should have got a hold of them that day. But you're trying to fix it. You're trying to make it better, and that's a side of things where you can go back and you know, hey, I screwed something up. I want to try to fix it right away. I want to try to fix this right away. When in fact you should have gone there. You probably would still got in trouble. The fact that you did it, but it would have been 4 violations as opposed to the 5, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it would have been, I still would have got my ass chewed 17 different ways, I'm sure. But you know,
right.
It turned out to be a great story and a great way for me to start my career, realizing again that, you know,
your integrity makes sense.
Absolutely. You know, and then again, I said it that way about representing my agency. It's like, look, dude, this is a big deal. You need to have your P's and Q's in line. If you don't, then you're probably not going to survive a career, you know? So.
Right. So there's the next chapter, actually, after that, it's a little bit longer. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's a line right in the middle of everything that talks about that says gearing up for the fight. You talk about how, and I'll just read this portion here. During the testing phase, I watched as several monster-sized scary dudes tested against me. Considering their strength and brawn, I was sure they would all be shoo-ins, and a lot of them did make it. There were also recruits who were much smaller than me. As it turned out, physical preparedness was not too tough to grasp. Practicality was the key. As for comfort, forget it. There was no comfort in 117-degree weather at 1400 hours, not when you had been on perimeter for 2 hours already. Yeah, right. Keep fighting. You do your best. You drink a lot of water, which brings me to the importance of gearing up. What does that look like? Knife on support side? Check. Laces tucked in boots? Check. Non-widowmaker holster that does not require time lock release? Check and check. Secondary weapon that you regularly train on? Check. Anything with Velcro, zippers, and cool patches that read "The Infidel" or "This is the tool, I am the weapon"? Check. St. Michael medallion somewhere close by? Check. Hey, every little bit helps. Check. So you're talking about just preparing, just having what you need for that, having your gear set up right, and you know where it's at. The importance of having that secondary weapon that you've trained on, not just that you have it. You just bought it at the store and the range master said, yeah, it looks good. And you qualled on it once, but you train on that thing. You pull that thing out of the holster every once in a while or wherever you keep it, you know, whether it's your ankle or, you know, whatever. Just having that knowledge of that stuff, that makes a huge difference. Where did that knowledge, where did that, I guess, idea come from for you? Because some people just don't do that. Some people don't have that knowledge, but obviously you did at some point.
It was just, I think it was my field training officer he was one of those guys that I never learned how to write reports through him. I never learned how to do accidents or really do investigations, but I could find bad guys. I could freaking get into some good shit. Lots of the very basic street level stuff where it's on the side of fights and survival and setting up perimeters and all that kind of stuff. The investigative side, not so much, which I joke about in the book that I'm great at catching them, not so much at cleaning them.
Right.
But the first couple of times I was out there and seeing some stuff going on, talking to some of the senior guys, I'm like, this is a pretty good idea. But then when I got my first major scrap, my first major fight, I realized, and that's another story in the book, of course, as well.
Actually, I think that's here at the end of that chapter. It says fights on.
Yeah.
I think it goes into that. But yeah, tell us about it.
I knew that I could not in any way, shape, or form lose a fight. If I lose a fight, then if I don't get killed, my partner's going to get killed, or a citizen's going to get killed. And on my watch, if you want to say it that way, I couldn't afford that. I would never recover from that. So having that kind of mentality in the very beginning was really easy for me to realize that, man, I got to have everything that I can have at my fingertips if I need it. And on the secondary weapon thing, which is kind of a joke on the side, that thing got used more for my buddies when they forgot their gun in their car, or if they left it in the locker down at the jail or something like that. I'm like, all right, here's my secondary just till we get back to the station or whatever it is,
Right.
Fast forward just a little bit. I trained well above the standard that we needed. I mean, way more than I ever really needed to. Because I heard that statement of train at 100% to perform at 70, because you're always going to fall back to, you're not going to rise to your performance level. You're going to fall back to your basic stuff. So I thought, man, I better be better than what I need to be. And when my big day hit, the really nasty one, I like to think I was probably at about 85%, which is actually pretty freaking good, all things considered. But even still, I'm 15% behind the curve. Dude, that's huge. Right. So as much greatness as I thought that I had, I still was already behind the curve from what we had to react to. And then even further behind the curve because of the training that I fell back to. So,
right.
Right.
And that's kind of, that's not something that a lot of people, I guess some people think about, is because they get comfortable being comfortable. They get used to just, hey, this is how I do it, and this is what it is. And I've seen guys that they're so comfortable that, they say, okay, we're doing weapon inspections. They're like, oh, okay. They pull it out, and there's just this, there's cobwebs, there's dust, and there's dust bunnies, and they're, in the side of the well of their slide, or up inside the magazine well, or around the trigger guard and stuff. Like, when do you clean this thing? Yeah. Do you use this? Do you ever pull it out and dry fire this thing? That's the question that gets asked. And just that little bit of something is beneficial.
And I couldn't agree more. And, when you realize what kind of guy you're going to be, or gal you're going to be on the street, and then you start kind of figuring out the direction you're going to go. I knew very early on I was going to be a shit magnet. I was just going to be a troubled guy, always getting into stuff, but mostly because I just paid attention and I went after stuff. I saw it. It's like almost like a birth defect. Oh, they run, I chase, kind of a thing.
Right.
But I realized during all that, it's like, so I had to know. I had to know my weapon system, whatever that happened to be, and so I perfected as much as I could. I was never really that good at a handgun, but I knew I could handle business if I had to. And I say it that way because I had guys that I'd shoot with that are freaking lights out. And I'm like, holy shit. One of my closest friends there was, he was a genius on the range, and he got into a pretty good gunfight and ended up not putting the guy down the way he wanted to. He never forgave himself. And I'm like, dude, it's combat. You don't know, as good as you are on the range, everything changes when you get on the street. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be what you expect it to be. And I don't care how good you are, you're never going to know. So
yeah, there's that, they talk about, and I just had somebody on the podcast who was talking about that whole thing where, you shoot somebody and you have this idea that you're gonna you can shoot one way, either, two to the body, one to the head, or whatever, but you're doing that with human people, and you're not shooting cardboard, like you are at the range. You're actually going to take this whole thing, and you're going to have to deal with this thing where you're going to be killing somebody who's running at you, or moving, or trying to hurt somebody else, and they're moving, and you might hit. Sure, you might get body, you might think you got the head, but you didn't, or whatever the case is. But so you're going to have to use more than 3 rounds maybe to put this person down, or whatever. But whatever you got to do, you got to shoot to stop the threat.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And, something I've been teaching lately is that, okay, on a static range, then first of all, they're not shooting back at you. But let's say you're on the street. Okay. These are potential factors that you need to think about. You just got in a fight with your wife on the phone. You haven't eaten in the last 5 hours. your flashlight goes out, you're tired, you chase this guy for 4 blocks, he's moving around, you know,
Right.
all these things, and you haven't trained on your weapon system for X amount of days or weeks or months or however long it is. Have you checked that thing, make sure it's loaded properly, you know, all these things.
Right.
And
You follow the guy into an apartment complex that you're not familiar with, and it's
Yeah.
possible these people are not friendly with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
And then you find out you're by yourself because you ran one way, your partner ran the other way. And then
yeah,
you're going, oh my God, what happened? You know,
right.
all these kinds of factors that play into it. And then you end up shooting a dude. God forbid, hopefully I'm praying nobody that's ever listening has to do that. And then you realize that, dude, it's not like freaking Magnum PI where the guy launches back 10 feet. And when you shoot him with a
Right.
45, it doesn't happen that way, right? You know,
Right. He
if
may
you
not
get
even go
lucky
down
enough
right away. Yeah.
around, that's absolutely true. That couldn't be more true. I mean, my last one, dude, me personally, 22 rounds of rifle before the guy finally succumbed. And that was just me. We had 5 other shooters that we had a total of 71 rounds in this guy, or at least inside of his car before he finally was done.
Mhm.
And people are like, why did you think you need to shoot that guy that many times? Because he's still shooting at us. You know, it's either him or us. You know, I mean,
Right.
what are you going to do?
Right.
Jesus.
So I had to shut my Wi-Fi off. I'm having some Wi-Fi issues, it looks like. So shut it off on my phone so I'm not sucking Wi-Fi other places. So anyways, yeah, so you're absolutely right that you have to look at what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, and everything else that goes along with that. Because if you don't, you're taking this chance of external factors now affecting your ability to save your own life. That made me think of Lieutenant Colonel Grossman's book on combat, where he talks about a lot of people, if you have not evacuated your bowels beforehand under a controlled circumstance, you may not be able to have under any other choice but to evacuate your bowels while you're in a shoot or something like that. You know, so that's another factor. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to the bathroom before now, or even you just gotta pee, you just finished, you know, your second cup of coffee and you hadn't been able to make it back to the office or something. That's just another factor. Then it's on your mind. Now your body works its way out of, you know, making, you know, okay, I'm going to shut this portion down, or I'm going to focus all my attention on this thing. But it may just say that, hey, we're going to evacuate all this stuff so we don't even have to think about it. And it's happened to guys, whether they've been in combat in the military or they've been in, you know, police officers and shootings and whatever the case may be. It's a real deal.
I couldn't agree more. And I first admit, if that did happen to me, I say yes, it did. But luckily, it never been around guys it has, and they're like, "Oh my God, and dude, that's an absolutely perfectly natural response to a critical incident."
Yeah, you're human.
Don't worry about it. Go,
right.
Yeah, just go fix yourself, and we'll get back into it. You know, don't worry about it.
That's why they give us more than one uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you hope anyway. That was one of those. That's one thing I never did have extra stuff that way. I was like, no, I'll just go back, because I've had multiple times where I remember the one time I was so pissed because I bought these. We call them the Michael Jacksons, but they're like BDUs, but they're like bicycle pants almost.
Oh, really?
Super light. They're like $95 a pair. And I got hooked on a freaking rusty nail and ripped a hole in my rear end. I was like, I was more pissed about the pants, but then I had to go get a tetanus shot because it's, of course, a nail. And I was like,
right.
But in the meantime, I've got to make my way back to my car with my freaking ass hanging out. People like, you okay? Well, not okay, damn it. So
yeah, that's funny. So yeah, so I mean, so that kind of leads us to something that we had mentioned before, that you were talking about before, and that's that training for the fight. That, I guess, that preparation for that, you know, we've kind of been joking about it or talking about it since then, and kind of talking about these things up to this point. But and I've talked to guests who have been through crap, and then how they've gotten out on the other side, and how they've fought through the trauma or whatever, and they get out and they succeed in their victories on the other side of what it is that they went through. But the thing that the other side of that coin is preparing or getting before that, where you don't know, you each one of these shootings that you've been in, or whatever situation you've been in, and you're just as human as the next guy. But each one of those things, you had to prepare yourself beforehand. You had to set yourself up so you would succeed. That's why you're going through that checklist of having those things, and by like listening to people that you had known or whatever. But aside from getting out, you go through that major trauma or the major incident, you get out on the other side a victor, whether you actually got injured or whatever, or you lost a friend, which in this case you did, but you get out on the other side and you fight through it and you get through it. But it's that preparation beforehand. What does that preparation look like for, I mean, obviously it's different for everybody, but what's the general look of that preparation, that training for that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say there's a simple answer for that. But I'll be honest with you, that's the easy part. That really is.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your gun set up the right way, or having your vest with your magazines in a certain position, or whatever it happens to be. That's the easy part. But I do talk about that with the mental side. So getting your mindset for, hey man, I might have to end up putting somebody down. Getting your mind into that whole thing of the playing again, that what if game. What if this guy does come after me? What the physical side? Anybody that knows me knows I was never a big dude. I could never get muscle as far as working out with weights. I was always in good shape, and I could always chase people down and everything else. So I prepped physically for job specific, whatever that happened to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you happen to be a SWAT guy, you're going to be doing things for the SWAT community. For me as a patrol guy, I prepared for, okay, when this guy runs 4 blocks and I got to jump all these fences, I need to have all this kind of stuff prepared. Like in one small case, like the physical side, having gloves. If I knew I was going to get into a foot pursuit or a fight, I'd try to have my gloves. Stuff like that. And then the emotional side, you really can't do that. I'm going to say it out loud. You can't really do that till after a critical incident. You can try to prepare yourself, but that goes back to the mental side of things. The pre-fight, if you will. The emotional side is going to be the post-fight. Right. And then I get into the spiritual side of things, where that's a personal thing. You got to figure that out for yourself. Do I want to have God on my side, or do I not believe yet? I came to the conclusion the other day that I won't get into it too much for right now, but for years and years and years, I kept saying, I'll start to believe more in the spiritual side of things when God gives me that sign, which ended up being, he goes, and I can almost hear him saying it. I was like, oh, you want a sign? Okay, here's your sign. And then my buddy Dave gets, well, that was a little bit more than I was expecting, and then that truly was, I mean, I was already kind of going down that path to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I'd learned a lot, and I'd been through some stuff that kind of made me believe more than I had before. But when Dave was killed, that whole thing was like, okay, now there's no way I could even deny it, even if I wanted to. And so I started doing some research and figuring out that, wow, there's a lot more to this than I ever realized, so.
Yeah. There's that thing where you say, hey, give me that sign or whatever. And there's a good possibility that a different sign has been showing up every day or whatever. And you're like, and it's just showing up and you're
right.
I need a good sign. And then this one's just apparently not bright enough to get your attention. Here's another one. This one's just not, it's just not doing it. And you're like, man, I just wish I'd show you a sign. And you look back and there's a whole road of signs that are like been punching you in the face. What's that old story?
All right, dumbass, you want a sign? Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's your big ass.
Yeah. What's that old story? There was a story where there was like a flood, and the water's rising. And this guy, he comes out of his house, and this guy in this big old truck comes by in front of his house. Hey, you want to get out of here? I'll give you a ride. I'll get you out of here. He goes, no, I'm waiting on the Lord. He's going to protect me. He's going to take care of me. He's going to give me help. Okay. All right. We'll see you later. Guy takes off. Well, water rises, all of a sudden he's up on his roof. Oh no, the water rises, and it's just, you can't get his car out. His car is completely submerged, and this guy in a boat comes by. He says, hey, the guy's up on the roof. Sorry, I'm ruining the story. However, I'm going to try to tell it right. Anyways, the guy gets up on the roof because water rises up high enough, and he gets there and he says, This guy on a boat comes by and he goes, "Hey, we'll get you out of here. We'll help you out." He goes, "No, I'm waiting on the Lord. He's going to protect me. He's going to bring me to victory on this one." He goes, "All right, if you say so." Guy in the boat takes off. Well, the water keeps rising. All of a sudden, the guy's now just sitting on top of his chimney, right? And he's just watching this water come up, and helicopter comes overhead and says, "Hey," and drops a ladder. "Hey, we'll get you out of here." He goes, "No, that's okay. The Lord's he's gonna deliver me from this. So you guys are fine. You guys, I'll be okay." And sure enough, water rises. The guy, drowns, whatever. And then he goes up to heaven. And God's like, he's like, "God, how come you let me down? I trusted you to save me and everything like that. I thought you were going to come and deliver me from." He goes, I sent you a guy in a truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What more do you want?
Exactly.
It's that idea that I've done it. I've shown you. I've given you these things. What more do you want? And so it takes, and unfortunately, and I'm not going to say that it had to be there to knock you up on the side of the head, Dave's passing, but it's one of those things that it did open your eyes to see.
Totally did. Yeah. I gotta, and for folks that are listening, I'm going to tell you guys, if you're not already at that point, like I wasn't, then it's not going to be what you think. It's always going to be something else. It's very much like triggers.
Yeah.
Where you start planning your triggers later on, it's never going to be what you think, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do got to share one quick story. So my neighbor downstairs comes up and he sees my Dave Grossman poster. I've got, as soon as you walk in my front door, that's what you see. I got a big old huge Dave thing. So Dave, when he signed that poster for me up in Colorado back in 2017, he puts on there the King David Psalm. And I never paid much attention to it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks." I was looking more at the signature. I was all happy about that. But
right.
So for guys that aren't familiar, the King David Psalm was 144-1, right?
Uh-huh.
My neighbor comes upstairs. He goes, "Hey, have you recognized the correlation between the King David Psalm and Dave Glasser's Phoenix PD serial number?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." He tells it much more eloquently than I can, but basically says, "Well, how many days does it take to make the heavens and the earth?" And I said, "Well, 7 days, the 6 days plus 1 day of rest is 7 days."
Right.
He goes, "So, okay, there's your 144-1, the 7 days, right?" He goes, "Now, what's Dave Glasser's serial number?" And I said, 8144. So your 7 days to make the heavens and the earth is your 8 plus the 144 is 8144. And I was like, dude, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. I started bawling. I'm like, oh my God. And again, he tells it better than I can.
Yeah.
When you hear stuff like that, it reconfirms that, man, there's something bigger going on than just us, man.
Oh yeah.
Just huge. So
yeah, and that's pretty cool that that you're able to put that correlation together. So that's that's a cool thing. But you cannot get past when there's signs. So you're doing presentations now where you're bringing up the spiritual aspect, you're bringing up the physical, you're bringing up the mental aspect.
Correct.
What are, just kind of going back really quick, what are obviously physical aspects is you want to be you want to be good enough shape. You want to take care of your physical body. You want to work out. You want to get proficient on your firearm. You want to be able to pull your handcuffs out pretty quick and put those on, timely and not be fumbling around. You want to be able, want to know where your gear's at. You want to be a good driver with your patrol car. You want to, drive defensively. You want to know how to talk to people. I mean, these things, physical things that people can honestly work on, right, that everybody knows, you want to, you shouldn't be, watch what you eat, and somebody's going to get on take off on foot on you. Are you going to be able to get in there after them? And, that sort of thing. So you've got the physical side that everybody works on, and everybody seems to have an understanding of. And even if you don't work out on the daily, you still know, I need to be in better shape than I am, or they call themselves, this fat guy or whatever, I talked to a guy the other day and he goes, "I can't believe this girl took off running. She made a fat guy run." Oh my gosh. And it's that idea though, but he knows it, he owns it. Right. Yeah. However, he caught her and he was breathing heavy at the end, but he caught her and it was all, she went to jail, did what needed to happen. So the physical side is understandable. We all know what we need to do to get more proficient. That mindset is a little bit different. That mindset, having that mindset, what is your what's your take, or your input in regards to mindset for folks?
Well, I go a couple of different directions with that one. Some guys are in denial. They're like, oh, that's never going to happen to me, and all of a sudden they figure out that, man, I really wish I'd stuck up on that cardio because I'm getting my ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
We're always going to be reactive, but we need to be proactive in our preparation to be reactive. I know that's kind of an ass backwards way of saying it,
Right.
but and think about it from another angle that, hey man, it might not be you that's getting into a fight. It could be your partner's getting his ass kicked, right? It could be 2 or 3 different guys or whatever else. Or do you have the ability to stick it out on a shift for, you get held over for 4 hours or whatever else because you got an active shooter or whatever. Do you have the endurance to stick it out for that kind of a time? The other half of that chat is one of my things I've been talking about for years, especially after my scene, was that you get guys that use the statement, well, this is how we've always done it. And that's probably one of my newest, biggest pet peeves, where I'm like, no, dude, we are a progressive entity that needs to be that. We need to continue to further ourselves and think about the possibilities of what could go wrong and what are we going to do to stop that,
Right.
So.
Right. I heard a thing recently where these guys were talking about, the guy that comes forward and says, oh, we've been doing it this way. This is the best way to do it because we've always done it this way or whatever. And then somebody, let's say somebody comes along and they say, well, yeah, but we, on this particular one, why don't we try it this way? Nope. I've been doing it for 28 years this way. And this is always the best way to do it. Guy comes in and he just kind of changes the route or does something different. And it's like, wow, that got done in half the time. It was more efficient. It was, the outcome was way more beneficial for everybody. And so you can easily go back and tell the guy for 28 years, hey, I've got 5 years experience. You spent 28 years doing it. I've never done this before. And yet we did it this way and we got a better result. You've been wasting your time for 28 years. What have you been doing?
Well, I can tell exactly what that is because, and I was there. I was that guy. I was 100%, no questions asked. Cops hate change.
Yeah.
If it's somebody else making that change, if it's a change I want to make, then absolutely it's okay. If I want that freaking 2014 Crown Vic or whatever, or the Tahoe or whatever they have now, that's okay. But somebody else gives you that 2013 Tahoe, you're like, oh God, are you kidding? No way. I can't take that car. No way. But I'll take this car. If it's my decision, yeah, it's okay. But that's how we are as officers, and I get it. So getting guys to change, and I was no different. Like when I had to put I had to carry my big 21 in my vest as my outer carrier. It was exposed, and my boss kind of flipped out. He's like, "No, you can't do that." And I argued with him and argued with him and argued. And I'm like, "Why do you care?" I kept going on and on about the whole thing, and finally realized I'm not going to win this fight. And I really didn't care. It made no difference whatsoever. But because he was making me do it, I didn't like it. But when I figured out that it was actually more beneficial the way he wanted me to do it, and I kind of finally came to terms with, okay, this is actually better. Okay, fine. I kind of let it go. But that was one of those, I was like, no, this is not okay. It's up to me, whatever. So,
and you know what that is? That's our ego getting in there. That's our letting our ego just say, well, no, I know, I've been doing 28 years. I know what I'm doing. And I know you do. And we don't want to think that I've wasted your 28 years. I mean, you don't want to think that you've done that, but you could have been a little bit more efficient with your time or your efforts or whatever, and how you're treating people and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of boils down to, yes, our ego is what we always think of whatever. And even though I say, and people have heard me say on here several times, subordinate your ego, put it away, and kind of just, but you know what? I'm a human, and I work and I live in a profession that we hold ourselves pretty high, and we have this A-type personality. And it's not that we see ourselves as being the best. What I mean is we hold ourselves, we have a standard. And well, I do it this way because this is my standard. And somebody comes on and says, well, yeah, but what if we were to go this way with that? No, that's against me. And everybody's like, well, I love this new way. And now all of a sudden I'm no longer relevant or something along those lines. Right. So my ego gets in the way, and I have to just, mellow out a little bit and realize, hey, we're here to get the job done. And we're here for the bigger mission, the bigger purpose, and the bigger picture. And if we can focus on that, that's the benefit. And I think that can be translated to just about anything. That can be translated to not just police work, but anything you do, anything, whether you're just a, retired grandma that likes to knit, or, whatever the case is, it doesn't have to be.
I think in the first responder community, I think a lot of guys fail to remember. It's not they don't know, they just fail to remember sometimes, is that, the needs of the many versus the needs of the few.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it, because being stuck in the car, I didn't want to be driving for 10 hours, whatever else. Like, you're not stuck in that car all day long, but it wasn't because they wanted to give me a shitty car. It's because, well, we got something else going on. They need these other cars or whatever else. And you happen to be the junior guy. It's a bigger picture here, and let's try. And I'm 100% guilty of that too. Not anymore, because I'm gone, so it don't matter to me, but trying to remember those kinds of things. And I got to admit though, all the stuff that I'm talking about is really easy for me to sit on my side of the fence as a retiree going, oh, you need to do it this way because, it's what Chris Hoyer says. Yeah, bullshit, dude. You're not out here. You don't know. So pretty much what I want people to take, if anything that we're talking about, you on your show or me personally, whatever else, that it's a way. It's not the way. It's just a good starting point for you to say, hey, you're full of shit, or, I kind of do like that, but I'm going to add this to it, or, hey, that works good. I'm going to take it on board and do it that way,
Yeah. I mean, it's like some people, how the hell they grill steak. Some people like it a little more rare. Some people like a little bit more cooked. Some people like put salt on it. Some people like pepper. Some people are gross and they like to put ketchup with their steak. And what is, I get it. I don't get it.
I don't get that either, but hey, okay.
Do what you do. And maybe I did that when I was 5 or something, but you have to mature at some point and realize how gross putting ketchup on steak is.
I don't get it. It's like my girlfriend and I, she likes to put freaking mayonnaise on ham. I'm like, who does that? Come on. No. Mayonnaise goes on turkey. Mustard goes on ham. Come on, get it right. So,
and so, yeah, you kind of bridge. So you say that you go across the country now, and you're doing presentations and stuff. And these are your big 3 that you kind of focus on: your physical, your mindset, and then your spiritual. And do you have any exercises that get people to adjust their mindset? Do you do anything that you can kind of get people to sit there and other than what we've talked about, but how to adjust that mindset to, if I'm getting in this fight and I'm getting my butt kicked and I'm getting tired now, how do I kick my mind into go mode to where I don't let this person win no matter what?
Yeah. I do talk about that a little bit in the book and some of the training stuff that I do. Clearly having good quality training is a start. I got into a lot of guys on the defensive tactics world because the stuff they're teaching didn't work for me. And I'm like, look, I can tell you right now, it's not going to work. I'm not going to do it. This is what's going to work for me. Like, well, that's what we teach, is what's in policy. I said, okay, but this is how I need to do things to conduct my own business on the street, whatever it is. Having that thought process of I can't lose a fight is huge.
Right.
But also recognizing that sometimes you're going to be outmatched. Right. Now, I know that if you and I are going to town on the mat, there's things I'm going to have to do to overpower you, which is going to probably be much more violent. And a lot of guys don't want to have that. They don't want to be seen on the news putting a guy down as hard as they can. My thought process of that is like, look, man, I got a guy that's 5'8", 260 pounds. He's going to crush me like a freaking bug. But if I put him down hard the first time, properly get this guy's attention, give him some pause, I won't have to go back and do it twice as hard the second time.
Right.
That makes sense, right? Because if I don't do it right the first time, how can I do it right the second time? Because now the guy's adrenaline's pumped up. I'm already tired from having to do what I did the first time. It's going to look even worse. Now I've got to go even harder. So I say, you know what, put the guy down as quickly as possible, as hard as you need to control the arrest and so forth, so on. But also, this is something that people, they kind of look at me sideways when I tell them, hey, you know what, if you're outmatched, taking a step back and escaping if you can is 100% okay, because I would
Right.
rather just take a step back and the guy escapes. I'll find him later. Now,
Right.
clearly, we're talking about your garden variety fight for a guy that's got a felony warrant or whatever happens to be. Okay, do I really care about that? Yeah, I do, of
Mhm.
course. But at some point in time, you add factors in, like the worst case scenario guy, like I like to be. The guy just killed an officer. Now, obviously, you're not going to let this guy go. You're going to take care of business or whatever else.
Right.
But it is in a garden variety situation where you're outmatched. Take a step back and rally the troops. Get people knowing where you are, having all these tactical things in place prior to you having to go hands on, including this. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I would 10 times over talk myself out of a fight versus having to go hands on. No, don't get me wrong. I love rolling around with dudes on the ground. It was great, having a good time and stuff. And my thought process during the time was, man, I'm actually getting paid for this. This is great. And then, then you realize that, man, this guy is, most times we realize that most guys are just trying to escape. It's not really they want to fight us. They just want to get away from us.
Right. Right.
But that 10 or 15% of the time when they actually do want to fight and they do want to cause damage, when you realize that, you're like, oh shit, I need to step up my game. That's not the time to do it. I mean, now you're in the fight, it's too late, right? I mean,
Right.
you hopefully take care of business, what you got to do on the tactical side of things, but you got to have that pre-plan in your mind prior to, and recognizing that, like with you personally, I'm like, I'm not going against this dude. No, I'll grab like 4 or 5 of my buddies and then we'll jump this guy. You know what I mean? So try not to be that cowboy.
I'm not
guy
that. I'm not that good. I am. I'm really. I'm bottom line of people that I know. So it's fine.
Yeah. I say the exact same thing. I downplay my abilities all the time, but when it comes right down to it, no bullshit. Never lost a fight. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been bitch slapped and punched and kicked and all kinds of cool shit, even from other officers that were fighting a guy and I'll get elbowed. And I'm like, oh, that fucking hurt, whatever.
Right.
No,
I heard a good saying.
Mindset of I
was gonna say I heard a good saying one time. It was, I might not win, but I sure ain't gonna lose.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
As long as I don't care if the guys have been
and
yeah, I don't care if the guys have been in the hospital or whatever else. Even if I do, as long as I get to go home, this is always going to be a guy's decision that we're going to have to react to. If you lose some teeth, hey man, I tried to talk my way out of this fight. I tried to talk you out of the fight. But guess what? Now you're going to get thumped. I'm sorry.
Right.
And I'm not sorry.
Right. That's where that new thing that they're talking about, the de-escalation, that big buzzword they're using right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's basically, back in the day, it was a gift of gab. It was talking to the person. I remember, taking a wanted felon, wanted murderer into custody by myself because I just chit chatted with him in the back alley behind a bar one time. And we talked and he was like, yeah, okay. And I was waiting for a long time, waiting for backup, and backup was coming, and they were good 20 minutes away or more. And it was just not happening. And times, there's good time, there's bad time, right? They always talk about good time, bad time. And the longer we're sitting there in this alley and I'm talking to this guy, the worse it could get. And so it was one of those things, we're just going to take him into custody by myself. And I talked him into handcuffs. Oh, okay. Yeah. I get it. I understand all this different stuff. And they're like, wow, okay. You learn how to do that when you have to work by yourself for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But if you just walk in there like you're top stuff and you can do it no wrong, and you're going to get your butt kicked. And
it's a matter of time.
And so you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able. And so they talk about de-escalation now, but it's basically gift of gab. It's what cops been doing forever.
Well, here's my take on that. Yes, you need to know how to fight. You need to know how to take care of business and everything else, but be prepared for that. Because the littler guys, I hated fighting the little dudes because it was always freaking scrap to the death kind of a thing. And the big guys, if they get a hold of you, you're in big trouble. But really quick, funny story about that. I had a guy, he was 6'4", 250, solid muscle, just did a whatever kind of a felony thing. And I find a guy by myself. It's an alley. It's like July in Phoenix, hotter than hell out there. He's wearing shorts and shoes, no shirt. He, covered in sweat. I know for a fact there's no way I'm going hands on with this dude, right?
Right.
So I committed to a hiding spot when he committed to where I knew I could get him. What I did was I step out. I'm like, hey, Phoenix PD. I said, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude, I'm not going hands on with you, but I will fucking shoot you right here.
Right.
I go, you and I are not gonna go hands on with each other because I'm gonna lose this fight. But if you do something stupid, don't make me shoot you because I can justify this all day long. So do me a favor, wait for my backup to get here. And the guy's like, okay. And he did. He's same as your situation. Guy got on his knees. And I just waited. I'm like, I'm just gonna hold this guy at gunpoint until I can get enough support to take this guy down.
Right. Yeah.
However, now on the de-escalation side, I'm a big fan of it. I get it. I love it. It's very effective. You need to know how to negotiate people. Verbal judo is a word they used when I was going through.
Right.
However, if you got a guy that's hopped up on dope, can you negotiate with this guy?
No. Absolutely not.
The guy just killed his wife. His adrenaline's going through the roof. All he can see is tunnel vision. He wants to escape. Can you negotiate with this guy? Probably not. I mean, you can make an attempt, and you need to for, is it going to pass the headline test for your policy, for your body camera, all these things? Like, you got to make the attempt. I get it. But you also have to have that realization that, hey, man, de-escalation may not work with guys that are dedicated, and
additionally, people that are not there, people that they're not in the same, they're not on the same planet you're on and same reality you're in. You can't, right. You can't necessarily, you can't necessarily have that conversation and like, okay, hey, look, what we're going to do is we're going to do this right here. And this is what's going to happen. Do you need anything? Can I help you here? And blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. If they're not there, they're not going to hear you. And nothing, like you said, if they're hopping up on whatever kind of drug, there's a thing. And I don't know if a lot of people may not be familiar with it, but it's called excited delirium.
Oh,
right. And I know right. However, it's one of those things, somebody's stripping down totally naked, running in the street, sweating, and it's, it's January in Canada, and they're still sweating, running around naked. There's something more going on than, they just got done with a good workout. That's not normal. They're not on the same planet you're on right now.
Right.
And so you have to deal with them totally. You're not going to be able to talk to them. You have to treat them with kid gloves, but not physical kid. You have to get them under control, and you have to just. Which is,
I do have like a 3-hour class on that, excited delirium, which is a great class. I love putting it on because I go through this whole thing about, and not getting off topic, but the guy is.
You can get off topic. It's all right. It's our podcast, right?
So first and foremost, the guy's going to feel no pain, right?
Right.
So all the pain compliance techniques we use aren't going to work. And I said, what's worse than that? Okay. The guy's got unlimited, human strength. And they're like, oh, so you're going to have 4 or 5 or 6 guys going to put this guy down on the ground. I said, what's worse than that? I don't know. I'm like, well, the guy's going to be freaking spitting on you or doing whatever else, all the other kind of bodily function kind of stuff. And they're like, I go, what's worse than that? They're like, I don't know. He's going to have freaking Hep C or whatever else. Is going to be spitting on you or whatever else.
Right.
What's worse than that? I don't know. And it's obviously a trick question. I keep leading him up. I go, the dude's going to be naked, right? You've got nothing to grab onto. Yes. Who's a junior guy? You're going to grab this guy's stack. That ain't going to work. I've been that guy. That doesn't do it either.
Because he doesn't feel that either. Yeah, he's not.
He ain't going to feel it.
Doesn't know. Yeah.
So when I tell them that, they all bust out laughing. I go, but seriously though, if you haven't experienced that before with the excited delirium folks, man, it's some scary shit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And it takes a Herculean effort to get these guys down in custody. So
yeah. And it's
the worst part is usually they're going to die, and that's the part where people were like, oh, well,
unless you can get them medical attention right away, and you have to be able to see it, and you may not even be able to get them.
No, and even fire's not going to show up for that anyways. Even if they do, if you're pushing 106 body temperature, dude, you ain't gonna survive that shit. That's why the guy's stripping his clothes off. That's what they forget about. I'm like, why do you think this guy's getting naked? Because he can't control his body temperature anymore. So anyway, that's a whole other story. But
but that's it. But that's the thing, is that you may not be able to talk to somebody with that is going off the rails like that. Like I said, they're on a different planet than you. They have no idea what's going on. So,
and just, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity to talk about resources there. We talk about, what do you have on your body that you can use? Like this new bowler wrap thing, I guess works pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it on social media or whatever, but I've not.
Right. I've never seen it actually using live thing or whatever else. But so that's an option. That's a resource. Do you have a canine? Do you have all these other people that can come help you? Whatever else. I mean, if you ever get a chance to look it up, it's a Marana, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's cranking off around with a shotgun. He's walking down the street, and one of the guys is trying to figure out how we're going to negotiate this guy onto the ground. The other guy's like, screw that. And he runs the guy over with his car.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah. Like runs him into a little half wall or something like that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes.
I'm like, holy shit, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Right. But that's the stuff you got to think about. It's like, well, right. It looks bad, but the guy's he's getting ready to walk into a building with a loaded shotgun. Right. Okay. I'm not going to get out of my car and try to negotiate with this guy. It's not going to work. Let's use something else. A car. Bam.
Yeah. Done. If you're justified to use lethal force, then you're justified to use lethal force.
Amen. I love it. So
yeah. Gosh, there's another one that I was thinking about, but it slipped my mind because I got into your story here on that guy. But that's just but you're right though. You got to think of all your other tools, and you got to think of everything is everything. I remember there was this, I was watching something and read a story or whatever. This guy, he goes and they're walking, and one guy steps on the landmine, and they were kind of creeping through, and he steps on this landmine, and he steps on it, and he's like, don't lift your foot off that. He is, one of the old, Vietnam era type. And he goes, don't lift your foot off that. So he's keeping the pressure on his foot on this landmine. And he's like, well, what do we do? I mean, if that thing goes, we're done. And he goes, I know. He goes, let me think about it. And this guy's just like totally, mellow. And he goes, hey man, everything is everything. You got to think of it like that. And he says, so he goes and he gets this rock, and he just slides it over, and he keeps it down, and he's able to slide the rock over where his foot was, and he gets out of it. Now, whether it's real, whether it was, a story or TV, I don't know. But I remember reading this story, and I'm like, yeah, in the grand scheme of everything, everything's everything. And if you can use one thing, one tactic, one way, why wouldn't you be able to do it for another thing? Now, obviously there's extenuating circumstances in everything we do, but for the most part, if you can try to say, hey, if this guy he's cranking off rounds and he were to turn and he point the gun at me, am I justified in shooting him? Well, yeah. What's the difference if he's cranking off rounds and he's walking towards a building where there's, a bunch of little kids inside, or there's people just doing business inside? What makes me better than them? If he's getting ready to shoot them and he's walking towards them, right? Why can't I use any force that I think is necessary? Because I am the distance that I'm at, am I going to be able to shoot him? Or if I miss, are those rounds going to go into that building that I'm trying to keep people safe from doing and going in anyways? Yeah. It's basically, I remember what I was going to say. It was the term lawful but awful. You're lawful, but it might look bad, like you said. It might look awful, but it's lawful, and your people are alive because of it, because you help somebody out. So,
I got a really interesting question got asked me yesterday. One of the guys, he was out of a gang freaking detective for like 100 years or whatever thing, and he goes, hey, well, you're up here doing these things. He goes, ask your guys this question. And I said, okay. He goes, what is killing cops more than anything right now? And I'm like, and I was trying to search for an answer, and I had no idea. He goes, in his opinion, of course, he goes, this is what I think based on what I'm seeing now. He goes, it's hesitation. Just like you talked about, guys are hesitating because they don't want to take that shot because they're worried about what's going to happen to them when the media gets a hold of them. And it's like, dude, no, we can't have that mindset, because hesitation is going to get you killed. I mean, no matter what it is. I would rather take that shot, put the guy down, and be questioned about it later on versus, I didn't take the shot. The guy went inside the building. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole Uvalde thing, but that's a classic example of why didn't we just take care of business?
Right. Right. And it's so frustrating. Yes. That, and you watch that video, and I was talking to a guy that I talked to online, Mark Lentz, and he was like, have you seen this video? It's so crazy. And I hadn't watched it yet by the time he contacted me and talked to me about it, but I was like, yeah, I've seen it since. And it's so, there's one portion where this one guy, he's on his phone, looking at his phone. And I'm not one to sit back and say, these guys should have done this and, Monday morning quarterback it. I'm not going to do that. But I know how I've been trained. And that is, if there's gunfire at a school where there's kids getting shot and I know it, why am I not going? Why isn't somebody else going in there? I mean, if I'm not there, I can't go in there. But if I'm there, if I'm here, if I'm on duty, you better be damn well sure that I'm going in there and I'm going to make sure I can do something to stop it. Because not that I'm ultimate the best or anything like that, but I'm not going to sit back and watch somebody else get hurt because I
when I was in Ohio, same question yesterday. I had 600 people right in front of me, and I asked that very question. I said, if you guys are standing there, kids getting shot, is anybody not going in the room? I said, raise your hands if you're not going in the room. Not one person raised their hand. I go, well, that's exactly what I want to hear. Every one of us in this room, you're going in here to save some lives. That's what we're here for, right? And again, even if it's a chief, I don't care who you are, the mayor, whatever else, dude, fire me later. Or you better grab 3 or 4 guys, put me in handcuffs, because I'm not standing around,
Right.
And I don't know what their reason was, why the officers that were there didn't just trump this guy or just freaking shove his ass out the door and do it on their own.
I don't know.
Not my
yeah.
Call to make. And I mean, for whatever their mindset was, I mean, who can even say? But even still,
right.
But again, that's one of those things, and you touched on it earlier about the physical, mental, and spiritual side. But the emotional side is a huge one that people need to pay really close attention to as well. So
You're right.
That's because the third and the 4 factors.
Yeah, I think that's kind of that added thing, because you don't know. It's gonna affect you. It's gonna affect you for the rest of your life. And I had the same conversation with Scott Savage. I just had him on the show, and
cool.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Scott, but he's a good guy. Works up Bay Area, and he owns the Savage Training Group, and they go around and they talk about training basically and everything that surrounds that. However, he was talking about just that, and I was explaining to him that there was some folks I was having a conversation with, and they're older, they're in their 80s, and they're like, well, we don't need the sheriff, we don't need to be paying extra taxes, so we don't need the sheriff's office to respond to our house because I have guns at my house. I said, okay, you have guns, I know you do, but you got to understand that if somebody tries to break in or somebody tries to hurt you or whatever, you're going to shoot that person, right? He goes, yeah, absolutely, I will. Okay, great. What if you're not there and your 88-year-old wife has to grab your gun? She knows how to shoot. She's fine. Okay, great. I have no problem with that. Is she ready to take somebody's life? Is she ready to sit? I mean, because she's a church-going former educator. She's not a former, she didn't, fly airplanes or back in World War II, or she wasn't, a runner and doing all this different stuff. She's been an educator, and that's her life has been raising children and being a school, a mom. Right. And, he's like, well, yeah, she can do it. She put somebody down. Is she ready to kill somebody? Are you ready to deal with that emotional side of, or is that just going to weigh so heavily on you that you don't even remember who you are, because it has changed? It was such a watershed moment for you. And, and, we don't realize a lot of times that we don't know what we don't know. And yet we think we do because we've seen it on, social media or TV or whatever. And what he was saying is that's that Dunning-Kruger effect, is that, we spend all our time, the more you know, the less you think you know, the less you know, the more you think you know, which is kind of goofy.
Yeah, it is kind of goofy. And, two thought processes on that whole thing. First and foremost, it's like, look, shooting people is easy. It really is. It doesn't really take a Herculean effort to pull the trigger. I mean, I'm living proof of that, right?
Yeah.
But how are you going to justify what you did based on circumstances? Of course, like in my circumstance, my first time, that's why I struggle with that dog situation, because the dog doesn't know any better, right? He's just protecting his mate or whatever else.
It's his owner, yeah.
And I got to put him down because
yeah.
it was actually another dog that was in
okay, yeah.
heat, as it turned out, which I, of course. So I had a big problem with that. But a dude, I'm standing in full uniform telling you what to do and you're not doing it, and then you pull a gun on me. You knew what you were doing. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And the reason I can say it that way is because you made that decision knowing everything that you knew, and you still tried to do whatever you're going to do. That was all on you, man. You knew what was coming. You knew I've got my gun pointed at you. You knew the possibility that you're going to die today. And so it was really easy for me. Second half of that thing is for folks that are on that thought process of, well, we don't need cops. We don't need the sheriff or whatever else, because I got guns. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I you come in my house, it's probably the last thing you're ever going to do. Okay. However, God forbid that ever does happen to anybody that has to go through that. Mm-hmm. What's next? Like when they were talking about all these social workers taking care of all these calls and shit. Okay.
Right.
Great. You've now negotiated the guy somehow into handcuffs, which I guarantee you're not going to do. Now what? Are you going to put this guy in your Infinity and drive him to the mental hospital? No. When you put this guy down in your doorway, what are you going to do with that dead body? You're not going to, what are you going to do? Call the freaking ME's office yourself? No, you're going to call the cops, come take care of it for you. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, you need cops or you don't need cops or fire or whatever else? At some point in time, you're going to need first responders to help take care of business, whatever that is. So it's my opinion.
And you're going to need that. You're going to need them, because what's going to happen on that aftermath is you are going to, there's a crime that's taken place, whether it's justified or whatever, there's a dead body. And what happened? What does the law say about every dead body? It has to be looked at, whether to determine whether it was a homicide, suicide, accidental, whatever the case is. Now, is it legal? Was it manslaughter? Was it something that, is justifiable? Whatever the case may be. But there still has to be an investigation. And who's going to do the investigation? Is it going to be the social workers? No. Is it going to be the ambulance crew? No, they're not going to do it either. And they're not even going to take the dead body. They might go up and say, yeah, he's dead, and let you know by their professional opinion.
You called it.
Yeah. But they're not going to do the investigation. They're not going to do the autopsy. They're not going to go back and, see what this person was on that got them all hopped up to go over and try to hurt you, that you had to defend yourself. It's the cops.
And it's so strange if you think about it, because guy comes in, whatever, unless you're in California where you still can't kill people, they come in your house, which that's a whole nother 2-hour conversation now by itself. But anyway, dude comes inside your house and is threatening your family. You put the guy down, 100% justified. Now, if you decide that you're going to move that body, you have now broken some kind of a law, whatever else it is. You're trying to cover something up or whatever they accuse you of it being now. Why didn't you leave the guy where he was? Well, this, that, and the other thing. You can't do that. You just can't. And you're going to have to call professionals in there to come take care of it. Because the second you start, altering any kind of evidence whatsoever, you're going to get jammed up for that 100% of the time. So
Right. I mean, you're just trying to, I get it. So the bottom line is the importance of police officers and the importance of having that knowledge of what's going to happen and the big picture, so you can prepare yourself mentally, the before, but how to deal with it emotionally. Are you're just a like I said, maybe a school teacher, and your job is to go teach music to kindergartners. That's your job, and you have to go do something big like this, and you hurt somebody. How do you feel going before kindergartners and teaching them, every good boy does fine, music scale, all that stuff like that? Or do you feel I shouldn't even be teaching kids because I feel so bad about myself? You have to get that. I mean, if cops have to go talk to psychologists and counselors and stuff like that after major traumatic events, I can only imagine what a just a regular person, your regular average citizen that doesn't see all these things all the time.
Well, I mean, obviously it's no secret whatsoever, but the average person sees what, 1 or 2 critical incidents their whole life. And we as officers or first responders or whatever see, hundreds and hundreds all the time.
Right.
So you've got one critical incident that could affect you for the rest of your life. Or you've got, in my case, I talk about it in great detail with 18 years on, not processing through all the bad stuff that I had seen,
Mm-hmm.
and it started to catch up to me. And by the time it caught up to me, my most toll had already been taken. It was too late. I was like, oh shit. Something we may have talked about on the first show was that Dave was killed May 18th, 2016. I retired July 5th, 2018. When I figured out that I checked out from law enforcement was 2 years later when I retired. I checked out the day Dave was killed. I figured it out 2 years later. I mean, holy shit. I mean, what does that tell you?
Yeah, that we're a little behind. We're a little. I mean, we build ourselves up on being trained professionals that are aware of our surroundings, and we're trained observers, and we can see, we see things, kind of taking this big picture, and we're able to process stuff fast and blah blah blah. And I know guys that their processors in their brains, they just work really fast and they're quicker, and you're like, geez, would you give me a chance to get on the radio? They've already got that point because they're quick. The processors just work really well in there, and they're just, God built them, their brain and everything for police work, which is absolutely fine. It's perfect. And I'm not one of those guys that has that quick processor. I mean, I can process, fast enough, but these guys they're just, really quick with it. And as you go through that and you're trying to process this stuff, we see ourselves as these people that can do this. But at the same time, we don't see ourselves. We can't see ourselves. We're good at seeing everything else around us, but we're not able to look inside and say, hey, how am I doing? What's the difference that I'm doing that's different than, a year ago or something like that?
Yeah, dude, you could not be more accurate with that. That's so true. And there's several reasons why. So, a lot of stuff that I've learned recently that, first and foremost, we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to be considered victims or be victimized, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of guys that, like when I was going through, I was like, yeah, I'm good. Pat on my chest. Yeah, don't worry about me. Dude, no, you're not okay. No, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not. And finally somebody had to corner me and sit me down and go, look, man, whether you like it or not, this is where you're going. This is the direction you're going to be going.
Right.
Okay. Turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened as far as my emotional recovery. But because we have that mindset of I'm the savior, I'm the protector, I'm the one that's about to doing good in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about myself because I'm worried about everybody else. Well, that's bullshit. That doesn't happen that way because you are, like you said earlier, we're all organic human beings. At some point in time, depending on your mentality and everything else and all the shit you've seen, it's going to catch up to you. It is, I promise you. And it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. I tell people all the time, my greatest thing I tell people is, if you want to be okay, you can be okay. It's not hard. Trust me when I tell you, man. I made it through all the bullshit, came out the other side, and now living the best life ever.
Right. So I really encourage anybody listening to go back to episode 26, listen to our story with Chris. But for those people right now, since they hear us talking about it, and we talked about Dave a couple times, kind of give us a synopsis of the incident and the aftermath, the after effect, the thing that Washington DC, that those two major points, that I remember and I think about often when I think about, going to cases or I'm talking to people or whatever. I think about that story of yours, and it stays with me. It's stories that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. And I tell people, oh, you got to take a look at this book, because not only because there's actually been a couple times that I've told people about this and they're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting book. And I point them over to a magnet that may or may not be on the refrigerator at work that has a QR code for this book.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So,
but I'm just saying it may or may not be there. I can't, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You neither confirm nor deny.
That's right.
I get it, so.
But if you kind of run us through the general synopsis of that thing, the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
But I also encourage you guys, get the book and listen and read that. It goes into detail, but go ahead, Chris.
So, I mean, the call itself is just a basic garden variety radio call. No big deal, turned out. Spare all the details, but we all ended up out there. I was out there by myself 13 minutes watching the house, and all the troops started to rally. As Dave's getting out of his car, bad guy opens fire and shoots and kills Dave with 3 rounds. 2 of the 3 rounds killed Dave. Third round went to a car across the street. Gunfire erupts. I come up with a rifle and start shooting at the guy inside of a car. I don't even know where he's at. And the first thing I do, the first mistake I made is I come off target to what do? Check my rounds, like we're trained not to do 100 times over.
Right.
Been an instructor for most of my career, and I teach guys not to do that. And that's exactly what I do. When I talk about going back to 85%, that was a big part of it. So what do you think happens? Guy starts freaking shooting at me. Son of a bitch. All right. So the fast forward, Dave gets shot at 3 times and killed. The guy shot at me 3 times and I survived. So clearly the survivor's guilt kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up on it. I was out there 13 minutes by myself watching this guy's house. I didn't know where he was. Turned out he's inside the car. Never saw him inside the car. That's another factor of the survivor's guilt of why did I not see this guy? Whole nother conversation. Finally get the guy put down. And for folks that haven't experienced this before, and God forbid, I hope we never have to, or people that aren't in our community that don't understand the dynamic of what really went on that particular day.
Mm-hmm.
4.5 second gunfight where Dave is killed almost in front of my face. He's downrange of me. I don't actually see him go down, thank God. Bad guy almost kills me, and I got to put him down. Right, 4.5 seconds of the 3 probably most major factor things that we can be dealing with. Losing an officer, that's one and all by itself. Getting almost killed, that's one all by itself. Having to kill somebody, one all by itself. 3 of those back to back to back in 4.5 seconds. It's like, well, no wonder you're all freaking screwed up, man. So fast forward, talk about the DC thing. So that's a really, really basic call. The beginning, middle, end of how that whole thing happened. Obviously, Dave didn't survive. We get done with the whole thing, and I see Joe, the sergeant, running the scene, and I grab onto him, and he's on my left-hand side. I got my left arm around his neck, and I'm holding on to him, and I'm like, hey, man, we're good. I'm shaking him, and he's looking right through me. I mean, we're pretty much face-to-face.
This is in Washington, D.C.
This is the day of the scene.
Oh, the day of the scene. Okay.
Out there. Yeah, we get done with the scene. I shake him and I'm stuff. He's looking right at me. He's not seeing me whatsoever. So I kind of shoved him off the way, go down, do my thing. I get done, do the investigation. It's all justified. The whole thing comes out, and we're all good to go. Of course, we're all falling down, crying, mourning Dave, and everything else that goes with that, mm-hmm. which is another very long conversation in itself. But fast forward almost a year to the day, we're in Washington D.C. now for Police Week, for the annual Police Week. They do it every single year. Mm-hmm. I tell folks, you got to go just to experience it, but I hope that you never have to go as a host agency, because that just makes things better as a VIP, worse as you get all that extra attention, which is a whole another conversation.
Yeah.
Go to the wall, the memorial wall, just for your officers, mm-hmm. 3 or 4 times as a group with all the folks and stuff. I find myself out there one night by myself, and out there for about 15 to 20 minutes or so, whatever else. And I'm thinking is good thoughts. I'm like, okay, you know what? Dave's in a better place. He saved our lives by putting himself in harm's way, stopped the bullets from killing anybody else. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, cool. I'm good to go. I'm happy. And I go to run my fingers across his name on the wall, and I freaking lose it. Just start falling uncontrolled for about half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Get done. And I'm feeling exceptionally refreshed. I'm like, God, that was a year of mourning and 19 years now of all the other stuff that I had to just release. All that particular night is all gone. I'm like, oh, thank God, right? Finally off my ledge.
Right.
Fast forward, next night I see Joe. His girlfriend at the time, now wife, calls me. She's like, hey, can you come down here and see Joe? He's not doing well. He's now at the wall by himself with her. And long story short, over that whole thing, we started screaming at each other during our time together at the hall about who let Dave die. Joe was like, I was the supervisor running the scene. It's my fault that he died. I set it up how it was going to be. It's my fault I let him die. I was out there by myself first. I was the one to let him die. I didn't see the guy in the car. I let him die. All these kinds ourselves for who isn't going to go anywhere except for probably a fist fight, because we're buds, right? We're colleagues, we're coworkers.
One here and then go ahead. Okay,
so I see Joe at the wall, and he's not doing well clearly, and I start having a conversation with him, and he wants no part of it, and it turned into a virtual, almost to the point of fist fighting, where we're blaming ourselves for who let David die. Right? No, I was this. No, it was me. I was running the scene. I was a supervisor. No, I was the first one there. I never saw the guy. Back and forth. And finally, it dawns on me that this is not going to go anywhere except for bad for either one of us if we continue on this path, right?
Right.
So I grabbed Joe around the neck, right? In the same exact fashion that I had on the scene that day, a year before. And dude, I swear to God, it was like a sledgehammer upside the head. The whole scene got brought back just from that one particular move, right? And the night before, pretty good crying. It was okay. All right. We lost an officer, kind of a friend of mine, colleague, co-worker. I didn't know Dave that well, but I had conversations with him and so forth. So it was a really good, emotional session the night before. This night, the next night, with Joe and I going at it, crying to the point where I didn't think it was humanly possible. I'm like, oh my God, like,
you haven't cried like that since you were a baby, huh?
Violent, like I can't stop. It was the weirdest thing. And Joe's in the same boat, and we're like fighting each other for like physically hanging on to each other and everything else. And this goes on for quite a while, to the point of other guys are coming over and going for other agencies around the entire country going, hey man, you guys, we're checking up on you guys. Okay. Get out of here, man. Get out of our face. We're fine. Get out, whatever else.
Yeah.
This goes on for quite a while, and we still talk about it to this day. Neither one of us can remember who said it first. We reached a conclusion that, dude, we're pretty much done. And we both kind of laughed about it, and we're like, hey man, I'm hungry. You want to get something to eat? And that was the end of it. Right? I swear to God, right there. It was like, okay. So we did. We walk off, and we're talking about it. And I like to say it out loud, man, like the spirit of Dave was just flowing through us, right? And we were just like, man, just feeling very vindicated, I guess, almost on some level. Like, man, Dave knew what he was doing. He willingly gave up his life for us. And that brings a huge amount of pride and trust in all these kinds of things and everything else. And we finally get done with the whole thing. And what I didn't say before was I saw Joe that morning, that he had his night, that same day when he started falling down crying. I was like, hey man, this thing the night before had this whole thing going on. He's like, man, I want no part of that. Get away from me. And I'm like, dude, but you need to hear this. All right, I'll let you tell your story, but I don't want to talk about it. Okay, fine with it. So sent him on his way. The next day, after Joe's thing, I go up and I'm like, I'm getting ready to give him a big old hug. I'm like, dude, we had this great revelation, and we're now, and he's like, get away from me. I don't want to fucking talk to you. I'm like, what's your problem? He's like, I'm so pissed at you for putting me through that, but thank you, because I'm glad you did. I'm like, okay. So
right.
These are, our side of the emotional toll that this kind of stuff will take on you.
Right.
And it wasn't just because we lost Dave. It wasn't just because I watched an 8-year-old hang himself. Wasn't because I buried 16 of my buddies in the line of duty. Wasn't for any one particular incident like a divorce or whatever else. All these cumulative things that just finally caught up to me, and we're like, dude, you're done. We're going to shut you down whether you like it or not. Okay.
Right.
So,
and there's got to be something, and I'm obviously no psychologist or anything like that, but there's got to be something that that there's got to have probably a name for it or whatever, where you are able to just ball yourself, just cry yourself empty, to where you're like you said, you guys just shut off, you're done. Okay, we're out of the tears are done. There's no more left in the reservoir. It's just all that emotional just welling up. The volcano erupted and now it's done, and you need to go refill with something, go get a burger or whatever you needed to go do.
Exactly what it was.
And that's just the thing, there's got to be something that, we always talk about, let's get it off your chest, or let me carry your burden, or whatever the case is. Those are analogies, but there's so much poignancy in them, where you're actually taking this thing off. You're getting this thing out of you. Even when you talk, you get that stuff out of you and you open yourself up. And the minute you do that, you physically feel instantly better. You're still bummed out or whatever the case is, but you physically feel instantly better, which is so weird to me.
And it's that's a very, very profound angle that you took with that whole thing. And I totally love it. And it's so strange because most guys, especially the first responder veteran community, they don't want to admit that they're struggling.
Right.
And so at some point in time, one of two things usually happens one of three things, which the worst of the worst, of course, is a suicide, where they just decide that everybody in the world is better off without me, which is completely like, no, that is not, it is all true.
Right.
We want to help you hold on conversation again. The other side of the coin, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to, like in my case, you're going to be denial. Your body's going to say, all right, dude, we're done. You're going to have like a 2-hour crying session, whether you like it or not, because that's where your body's going to go. You've basically got no physical or mental control over that whatsoever. You're like, oh shit, okay, I had no idea.
Right.
Or you're going to go into the shrink's office and it's going to be a systematic thing where you just break it down piece by piece by piece until you are either somewhat healed. You're never going to be cured. There's no freaking, writing on the wall. The other thing that I don't even say it anymore. Closure. We don't ever get closure from this kind of shit. No. You're either going to heal and live with it, or you're going to, whatever your other option happens to be. I mean, I don't want to use the word suicide, but that's unfortunately a reality of what we deal with sometimes. Yeah. And so at some point in time, you're going to physically and emotionally, it's going to take its toll on you, and it's going to come out at some point in time.
Right.
Whether it's in my case where you're falling down on your knees, can't stop, or I did both sides of the fence in no particular order, but I did the shrink thing as well. And I worked it out, and just started processing through, basing some reality stuff on there, basing some spirituality stuff on there. Everything that you can imagine just kind of gets thrown into the pot. And you're like, all right, here we go. You know, and again, the entire thing boils down to, do you want to be okay? If you want to be okay, it's really not that hard to get fixed. It really isn't. So anyway, all right, that's my long tangent. So.
Yeah, no, and I think it's good. I think it's absolutely something good. And, and so, kind of switch gears here. You've mentioned this person previously that we've talked and stuff like that, but somebody that helps you, that has helped you get through this stuff and is now just one of the biggest, I guess, your biggest fans at this point. I guess I'm not going to call her a groupie, but she decided to hook up with you for the long haul here after she edits your book and does the whole thing. And so she's and that's Natalie, and she's a major part of your continued just decision to be a better person in everything you're doing, correct?
Well, she's such an inspiration. It's just unbelievable. I mean, the fact that we found each other. I mean, both of us. I mean, last night, we've been together for over 3 years now. Even last night, she's like, "How did I ever find you?" And I'm like, it wasn't up to us, obviously. I mean, it was up to the hand of God that put us together.
Right.
But the kind of things that we discuss, we talk about, and how we first started our our professional relationship, which led into our
personal relationship.
Personal relationship, which ended up now she's living with me, of course, and we're living together. Was huge. And she talks about stuff like, when I sent her the book, she calls me the same day crying, going, "Oh my God, we got to do this book," and then fast forward months and months after it comes out, she's telling people on her podcast or that we shared together with on some of our stuff that this book actually saved my life, and I'm like, holy cow. But then you saved my life as well, because look at all the stuff that you have done, that I have done, that we have done together, that has just brought us full circle to realize that, man, this is just the most amazing thing ever. So
yeah, and that's kind of
cool.
She's a unicorn. She's a what?
She's a straight up unicorn, no doubt about it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna talk about her a little bit. You and I had gone, we were walking somewhere, and you were saying, and I don't know if you remember saying this, but you were saying that she is like the absolute perfect match for you, that you have no idea how you could have got her to be. There's no way you did anything to make this happen, that she was that perfect match that you'd always thought about, that perfect woman for you, and the dream girl for you, and who you thought about when you were younger and all this different stuff. And she was that girl. And so it was last year. So you guys have been together, 2 years, some give or take at that point. But she's that person that you were like, I'm so enamored. So now you see you guys on whatever, LinkedIn or whatever, and you can't, she's the most positive ray of sunshine of anybody I've ever seen, and then she says, oh, and this guy brings me, so much life and joy. And I'm like, holy cow, is she blind? No, I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Exactly. That's like, how do you? I must have her fooled pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, but she's a solid person. But that positivity that she has, that thing that just, she emanates gratitude to people, and so she has a thing. And what's this thing that she does? What's the thing that she makes happen?
So the short version of that, as the opener, is basically what she calls nothing but love notes, and literally it sounds just like it is. She writes notes for first responders, veterans, teachers, nurses, you name it, anybody in the world that she thinks may just need a little, like a pick-me-up, or just some love. It's all it is. And we had a guy last night. We get back, and we always have him with us at some point, either on our bodies or in the car or whatever else. We see this guy, he's a veteran, and I go, "You got any notes on you?" She's like, "No, they're in the car." We got done with our shopping, went back into the car, went back inside the store, found the guy, and she goes to hand him the note, and he pauses. And I'm thinking, okay, he's just going to say, no, I'm not worthy or whatever else. The guy pauses, and you can see he's welling up. He's getting ready to start a freaking, just a cry fest right there.
Right.
And just starts thanking us. And he's like, I don't even know why I wore this hat today, because it's got a first division, whatever company he was with. He goes, I don't even know why I wore this hat today. And I said, well, obviously it was for a reason, man, because this brought us together. And I'm shaking his hand, and you can see he's just like getting ready to just freaking lose his shit right there in the store. Right. And those moments are over and over and over and over continuously on a practical daily basis that we see these guys. And dude, it's unbelievable.
That's so cool. And so you said she wrote a book, and she's actually she's an author, but she's ghostwriting for a couple people and doing other books and stuff like that. But she also edits books and stuff like that. So she's 10 times smarter than both of us put together.
Amen.
But
except that she's with me, so I don't know, maybe not. So
well, her picker's messed up. We'll go with that. She's so smart. But the book she wrote is called All Because of a Love Note, and I said her name's Natalie. It's Natalie June Riley. You can find her on Amazon, and you can find her and all that other stuff. But I'm gonna read a little bit from her book, and it's basically it kind of gives a little bit of a synopsis. I was the kid voted biggest dreamer in the 8th grade by my homeroom class. As a 14-year-old wallflower, I was mortified. I would much rather have been voted best legs or life of the party, like the cool kids. Only now, 4 decades later, I do realize, if not appreciate the value and the virtue of being named biggest dreamer. Since a girl's legs have a relatively short life or shelf life, and being the life of the party becomes less attractive with middle age, I am good with the middle school moniker. The truth is, my pubescent peers got it right. Even now, I am nothing, if not still the world's biggest dreamer, one of the last eternal optimists who still believes in God, true love, miracles, the kindness of strangers, and the promise of a paperclip. Allow me to elaborate. A few years ago, about the same time, Nothing But Love Notes was taking off. My firstborn son, Billy, was returning home from deployment in the Persian Gulf aboard the USS Philippine Sea. He was about to be released from the United States Navy and was in the process of becoming a police officer in the state of Georgia. He called me one day from Jacksonville, Florida, asking me to send him all the necessary documents, including his birth certificate, his high school diploma, shot records, the works. As I was driving to the post office to drop all these important papers in the mail, I was praying for a paperclip, lest one or more of these documents get lost. My kingdom for a paperclip, I exclaimed. As I pulled into the packed post office parking lot, I managed to secure the last available parking space in front of the building. I opened up my car door, and lo and behold, there it was, a big silver paperclip glinting in the sun at my feet. It was as if the universe winked at me, placed my order in, and with Amazon-like speed, delivered the paperclip in record time. I picked it up, fastened it to the papers, and dropped the bundle along with the gifted paperclip in the mail. It was divine intervention, and just in the nick of time, too. It was also affirmation. That is to say, if you want something from this life, ask for it, believe for it, and then put your best foot forward and go for it. And then you wait for it. Ever since that day, paperclips of every shape, size, and color have continued to show up in my path. At the grocery store, in parking lots, on sidewalks across America, in airplane terminals, on airplanes, on the beach, in parks, in coffee shops, in truck stops, in bathrooms, in police cars, and elevators. You name it, I have found a paperclip there. I've made a habit of picking them up and keeping them in a big glass container at home that is now filled with hundreds of them, if not thousands. My friends and family have even started finding them and collecting them for me, like breadcrumbs. I see paperclips as a sign from above that I am on the right path. I know it sounds silly, but when the road gets long and life comes at you sideways, even more serious and uncertain, this breadcrumb trail of paperclips reinforces my faith. It makes me smile, and if nothing else, it reminds me that God is at the helm. All I can do is follow that which he puts in my path and heart. And when in doubt, there are signs everywhere. You've just got to look for them, and when you're not seeing them, ask for them, believe for them. Once you see the signs, you'll never not see them. It is written, what you ask for and what you believe for is already yours. Trust me on this one. I have a 2-gallon glass jar full of little steel wired messages from heaven to prove it. Some are perfectly pristine, some are rusted and bent out of shape. Each one symbolizes that there's something bigger at work, the stuff of miracles. And while we're on the subject of miracles, I am convinced that if a girl has someone in her corner who loves and believes in her, she has everything she needs in this life and beyond. Throw in faith, gratitude, and purpose, and she just might have it in her to make the world a little bit brighter than the way she found it. That in and of itself is a recipe for a miracle. I know this to be true because I had all those things, beginning with someone who loved me and believed in me. And it was in the middle of losing her, in the darkest days of my life, that I was reminded of who I am. I am a child of God. I am Hope's daughter. I believe in all things love, and I was put here to spread kindness, one love note at a time. I am grateful, green-eyed pipe dream whose legs, by the way, still aren't half bad. I am also someone who doesn't take herself a little too seriously and who took the heart took to heart the good counsel of a fortune cookie that read, "To capture a city, win the hearts of its people." God planted a seed in me, and it was in that realization that the game changed. Love is an inside job. It begins and ends with you, where you are right now, this minute. To make the world a better and brighter place, you don't need anything more in your arsenal than love, guts, grit, and a super cute stationery. On top of which, if you hope to create an extraordinary life, the one you've always dreamed of, you need a fierce amount of faith, focus, and fortitude. But keep in mind, all in God's time. Oh, and if it's peace of mind you seek, you need only the teeth to bite your tongue. Silence is indeed golden, especially those days, or especially these days. You have nothing to prove to anybody. Just do good with what you've got. With that, you are infinite, pure stardust, baby. If you don't believe me, keep reading. And that's just the beginning of All Because of Love Notes. And now I can't speak to the legs thing. I mean, Chris would know better than I would. However, the rest of it is absolutely, it's true. You know, you just have to believe, you have to hold yourself better. And you, the more you give to other people, the more that you realize that you're on this planet to serve other people and help them and spread kindness and love and try to be a better person for other people and for yourself. The more you're going to realize that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, good job so far. She's eloquent. She can type pretty well and speak okay. At least it seems like it per her book.
She does okay. Beautiful handwriting you've ever seen in your life. So
amazing.
So
I've got it. I've got this book right here that is actually signed by her. It says we only know each other because of a love note, because she is that consistent person that spreads gratitude wherever she goes, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because we joke sometimes that, man, whatever angel is watching over us must get sick of our shit all the time, going, yeah, we know you're happy, we know you live at the beach, yeah, we get it, we shut up, because we're like constantly just showing the gratitude for everybody around us and what we have, and just the appreciation for just life in general, man. It's just unbelievable. So we don't get me wrong, we both suffered through our own personal stuff. Me with my divorce, her with her divorce, losing her mom, me losing, my career and Dave and all the stuff that went with that whole thing. Somehow got put together, and now we're like, wow, well, we're gonna, just like yesterday being up at the conference. I mean, all I want to do is just get out there and tell my story and just save one life, Right. She just wants to do the exact same thing, that veteran from last night. I guarantee that I can already picture the guy walking to his car and sitting in his car reading his note going, oh my God, I'm probably just sitting there crying for however long it's happened all the time, So.
And that's the hero right there. That's heroic right there in the fact that you guys do that. So that's awesome. That's super cool.
It's cool. And she jokes about it. She's like, I feel guilty for doing this because it feels, I'm like, it should, because we're doing some good stuff out here, man. So
yeah, absolutely. But, we've been just rambling on for a good 2 hours and stuff now. So I think it's probably an okay spot that we can kind of start winding down a little bit. But I just want to let everybody know, if you're interested in more of the What's Your podcast, you can find us on all social media platforms and everything else like that. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and you can get a hold of us that way. If you see anything that I put on in regards to each episode, go ahead and say something on that episode, like, oh man, this was a good one, or man, this one really sucked. I mean, the guest was cool, but Ken can really use some help, and blah blah blah. That's fine. I'll take it. I can use all the help I can get. But you can also find us on the What's a Hero podcast.buzzsprout.com, and it has all our previous episodes on it that you can stream online, or it will have links that you can go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to the show, and then download episodes from there, especially if you're going to go on a long trip or something like that, or you just want to sit at the beach and you don't want to use up data. You can just listen to the podcast and understand why these people are heroes, and then have the gratitude that they have for other people and just want to see other people succeed. And so it's awesome that way. So you can find us that way. Chris, how can people find you, or how can they get a hold of your book, or even Natalie's book, All Because of a Love Note?
We're both on Amazon and Kindle. Mine's on Audible. Hers is coming out on Audible and Second now, so it should be out pretty quick. I do actually have, I don't think we talked about this, I do have an updated version of my book that has 4 brand new chapters and also a unbelievably generous forward from Dave Grossman, which is like, God, I couldn't believe it. A whole nother story. But if you do find the book and you want to reach out to me, my email is in there. And I'm on all the social media platforms as well, except for I'm not on Twitter, but I don't know how to do Twitter, but whatever. I do have a website, but it is still under construction. We're still working on that. Once that gets up and running, I'll start posting more stuff about that, so people can find me there as well. So
yeah,
I'm all over. Just type my name in, and you'll see all my crazy shit pops up. So
Christopher Hoyer is the name. The name of the book is When That Day Comes: Training for the Fight. And just Google Christopher Hoyer, and I'm sure you'll pop up. Your picture will pop up. Your book. The books. I'll put it on it'll be on social media too, so you guys can see a picture of it. But it's basically a silhouette of a police officer inside of a badge, and it's cool. It's cool. It's a dark book, and at least the cover is. But it has your personality inside of it, which is cool, and it's fun. And Natalie's is All Because of a Love Note. And what's cool is, like I said, you have a magnet, and so we'll see what we can do about getting that. It has a QR code on there, and so we'll see if we can get that put on there as well for social media and stuff like that. So
rock and roll.
But
thanks, man.
So yeah, so everybody that's out there, like we said, we can't be thankful enough for all the stuff people do for us. And so I'm very glad that I can meet people like this. Chris, we had not been for the show, we wouldn't have met. And this book it's an inspiration, and like I said, I think about your story often enough, and I'm able to share that with other people, and just see that there's if you're going through something, that it's normal to go through that. So it's cool. But I also want to thank all the teachers and nurses and first responders, firefighters, EMTs, all you guys that are out there, police officers. You are absolutely just appreciated and loved for everything you do, and our veterans out there who are always willing to go and fight the good fight because it's the right thing to do. Never think that all the stuff between all of you guys, veterans and first responders, and that includes dispatchers and everything, that what you do doesn't matter, because it does. It matters to somebody, and maybe they're just too afraid, or they're going through their own stuff. They haven't been able to say it, but somebody like Natalie or somebody like Chris who comes up and says you are loved, it's not necessarily, yes, they might love you for what you've done, but I guarantee somebody else out there has not been able to say it, and God put these two in your life to say it. So, thank you all for everything you do, and keep up the good fight, keep up the good work. So, Chris, do you have anything for everybody kind of to leave on, so they can kind of sit with and kind of chew on for a little while?
You say it pretty well, man. I'm not gonna lie. That was very nicely done. I'll just say thank you everybody for your service and your sacrifices, for all that you do. If you ever need an ear, a shoulder, or a punching bag, or a free place to stay at the beach out in California, not that people want to come out here, but any one of those is always available. My whole thing now is I just want to advocate to help other people out, just get them where they need to be, or where they think they want to be, or both, or what have you. So always available as a resource. So if they can't find me through you, or what have you, or they can't find me directly, go through you. Either way, it works perfectly well for me, and I'm always available. So
absolutely, and we'll continue to cultivate a good friendship, and I look forward to future books. It looks like I got to get a new copy of When That Day Comes, because there's more chapters that I got to read. It's like the director's cut or whatever, huh?
Yeah.
and
I reached out to Dave.
Yeah,
I reached out to Dave a while ago, and he's like, well, I'll take a look at it, no promises. And he came back with an unbelievable email, and actually wrote the forward for me and allowed me to pick things ever, because he's one of my heroes since I first started hearing about him back in 2003 when I was first on.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years on my agency, and just I've followed him ever since, man. He's just one of my big inspirational guys. So
yeah, he's a great guy. So, and I guess, I've seen you, just selling your book and at various conferences and doing things and whatever you got on social media, and everybody's there and you sign in everybody's book. And I happen to have a copy from Amazon that has no signature or any kind of word of wisdom from Chris Hoyer. So I guess I'm going to have to get that. I mean,
well, that is unacceptable. So here's what's going to happen. PM me your address. I'm sure I have it someplace, but send me your address on a text or whatever, and I will get you a copy with the new one on there, signed, and you name it. And don't even think about trying to pay me, because I'll not get up. So
right.
I know I joked about earlier, I couldn't fight you, but I will fight you.
No worries. Well, Chris, it's been an honor having you on again. And it's been great talking with you again. And I appreciate it. So, like I said, doors always open. You're always welcome back. And, hopefully you don't have any more major incidents that we have to, come back and talk, but you never know. Growth is growth. And, you never know what God does for you. So it's cool.
Amen. Thank you. Dude, it's my honor. It really is. I love it. Thank
you. Absolutely. So for Christopher Hoyer and Natalie June Riley, who I'm hopefully maybe we can get her on here at some point. That'd be awesome. But for Christopher Hoyer, I've been Ken Frownfelter, and this has been the What's a Hero podcast. We are clear.